Alright, I'm here to do another video on the GASToolkit that will be available to the Master the Hunt tier through my Patreon. GASToolkit is going to primarily be a bunch of effects handlers to start and different gas functions that'll be kind of helpers. But eventually I have plans to pan it out into a lot more than that. So once you have access to that through the Discord, then you can get access to the repo, download the repo, you'll have the plugin. The plugin will come just like this, and you can paste it into here, into your whatever project you're in. So make a plugins folder if you don't already have one. Put your plugin in there. So it's GASToolkit. The intermediates and binaries only exist right now because I just built this, meaning I built the use the Unreal build tool, built the project. That put the Unreal or the binaries and intermediates in there. I would delete them, except there's something I just added that is going to be now part of the repo, and I don't want it to like overwrite it or something weird. And then there's this README. This README is really important because it does show you the first 15 physical surfaces you want to have. Long term, I don't think they really have to be associated with this, but I also do have to see, because I believe that in the C++ for this, the handler itself is getting these surface types as these numbers. So expanding below this would be easier than reorganizing this when it comes to like making a child, because the child would just be able to get more data rather than having to reorganize this. It's going to be kind of a mess. So you're best off to copy these 15 in this order to your project settings, physics, and I believe it's called physical surfaces. We're going to check that out now. So we'll open this up. Yours will ask you to build. Just click yes. If the Unreal build tool doesn't work for whatever reason, build from source. I'm going to have a video, or I have a video on manually managing project plugins as well. I'll link that in the description. But other than that, it'll open just like this. And then after it's open, make sure you go to settings and click show plugin content, unless you already have that checked. Then you can go to your project settings here, under physics, and then under physical surface, there is, now I've added manually concrete, asphalt, dirt, mud, gravel, etc. in the order I said before. And then under plugins, we have our GASToolkit content, and that's where we have our Footstep Queue content. So I am passing this around like this because it's the easiest way, I think, to get this content around, although there is some sort of a weird bug. And unfortunately, when there's plugin updates, this may change some of the classes, but it should never be a conflict or anything that's going to be a problem. That's not like an easy, drag and drop replace kind of thing. The new thing I added is this gas Footstep Notify, and it's more or less optional depending on if you use Dragon or not. All it's doing is just getting the owner, getting the ability system component from them, making a switch on the activation queue tag, which is an instance editable variable, and that's just going to apply a gameplay effect to self, which is just going to be your gameplay effect. And your gameplay effect is just a footstep that's adding a queue. Doesn't really look like it does anything, but it's adding the gameplay queue. And then in the gameplay queue itself is where the data is stored and the Niagara component and all that stuff, as well as down here you can see under footstep data you have a trace channel that you can set. You have your left and right foot names, and you have your debug footsteps. So I'll click debug on right now just for the purpose of this video on both of these. And then one thing you're going to have to do, and this is just kind of a weird Unreal bug as far as I'm concerned, is after I drag this out into my content file and move it, I could have just copied it, I suppose. We have our Footstep queue content. You do have to reset, only on the gameplay queues themselves, the tags that they're using. And it's just got to be some weird Unreal bug, because they don't work when they're within in the plugin folder. Like they will if you reset them, but then the next time you open your editor, it's not going to work again. So it's best to just copy them into your content file, and then they will definitely work. You don't really have to do anything other than that initially, because the physical materials, if you wrote them properly, are going to pop up PM asphalt, concrete, etc. When you go through the whole list, sand is set, all of those should be set properly. And if that's the case, that means that this footstep data you create, which you can create just as easily if you don't want to have this one for some reason, or you need a second one, you have a data asset, and it's just called footstep queue data. And that'll just make this list, and you can populate that with the Niagara and meta sounds you have. Both of these are going to be soft referenced and then asynchronously loaded, so you won't have to worry about the size map. The size map's going to stay small for memory and for, well, the disk size, I guess, is relative to the data that you add to it, but the memory size is going to be relative to what's being loaded. So you don't really have to worry too much about things getting being a memory bloat, I guess, because it's only going to instantiate the data that it needs, and then every 61 seconds, garbage collection will come along, do its job, and clean out any objects that are not being used. So we have our gas footstep notify, like I said, and just the simplest way of using this is just, like I said, drag it into your content. You're already good to go. We'll go to our animation blueprint that we've been working on. We have our layer here. Our layer is going to have its anim set in our cycle. We're going to have a run forward. And I can just switch out AN foot plant because this is the Lyra stuff for AN gas footstep notify. And then I'll just change this to gameplay queue left. And we'll change this one to gameplay queue right. And that's all I'm going to do right now just to show you how easy it is to get them working, because I don't want to actually use notifies. I mean, objectively, you might want to use them if you're getting false fires, or another big one would be, let's say you have a character that is wall running and the wall running isn't triggering the trace properly or something like that. You might want to change your trace or change your trace vectors or different things like that. Or vaulting is another one. So if you're vaulting up a ledge, that's not going to trigger the IK trace from Dragon IK, which is the alternative way to doing footstep traces. And it's going to be better because Dragon's event is only going to happen when IK traces happen, so it kind of just takes the whole notify thing right out of it. And rather than having to place hundreds of notifies through all of your different animation layers, which becomes very cumbersome for your time, and then if anything happens to your animations, then you have to redo it, and it's just a nightmare. I've been through it before. This way, didn't mean to spawn replicated, but you can see right there that client and server are now spawning and referencing the proper variables in the debug. So that's all you have to do. And then just to show you that it is in fact working, I'm going to go to here and I'm just going to add some VFX from here. I'm pretty sure these are free. These are the Niagara effects that I will eventually go through and optimize, just because, like I said, I'm pretty sure these are on permanently free on the Epic Marketplace. And when they're optimized, they're not so bad. When they're unoptimized, they're not great. They're definitely more cumbersome than I would like. Desktop example project. So that should add these here in a second. Okay, and then I have these footstep things. So in here we have all these particle systems, and just to make this really simple and visible, I'm going to go to my footstep data. I have my general and my concrete, just to show how easy it is. I'll go ability, because this ability one's very, very obvious, so it should trigger right away. And it's got to load the shaders the first time, so you'll experience hitches in editor sometimes because of that, but they don't occur in a packaged product. And you can see that it's only triggering 2 times because of the notifies only being placed twice, right? So if I go back to here, these are doing their thing. I'm just going to delete them because I don't need them. I'm not using that method. So the other method is going to be, you have to have Dragon IK, which is my #1 recommended plugin. I highly recommend it. In this series, we just went over the skeletal controls for it, or the skeletal controls layer. So in that layer, oh, am I on the wrong project, or did I just not add it? Very confusing. Oh, no, I added it in here. That's why. Those are old examples, or other examples. So in this series, I was doing this. This is here. I can just copy this and the in pose. Or actually, I don't have to. What am I talking about? Now that I know that this exists, I have 2 feet bones. Foot L and foot R. And they're in that order. This is important for this thing. So foot L, foot R, which means that L will be the top one in what I'm about to do. So I'm going to go to the base character, and we're going to add Dragon Footstep Component. This won't work. That was why I wanted the Dragon step. This won't work unless you have the foot and spine solver, or at least the foot solver. And then your array should be foot underscore L, foot underscore R. These should be the 2 values because, like I said, they should be in order, the same as the foot solver and spine solver, which start with foot L. So we'll do that. Then you can see that this has a on character footstep. This is going to be triggered every time that you walk onto something or whatever, right? We have an ability system. The ability system can add gameplay. Oh, what's it called? Gameplay effect to self. Apply gameplay effect to self. I always forget that. Okay, so we have apply gameplay effect to self. Now, just to get this simplified and make sense, I'm going to print a string. It's going to be the bone name that's happening. So this should print the proper feet. I'm also going to switch this over to one player just really quick. Not getting any prints for some reason. Why? I'm just going to break this and see if it's triggering it at all. Nope. So what's the reason for that? Base instance. And this could be because I might be on the wrong unarmed. No, that's the correct one, and it's using this layer instance. This layer instance has the foot and spine solver. This event should be triggering. What am I doing wrong? Because even if these are in the wrong order, this event will still trigger, but it's not, which is very curious. Oh, right. I seem to remember there is a footstep, listen for footsteps. That's the other thing you have to click in here. Thankfully, I remembered that. So now, listen for footsteps is going to, for the Dragon Footstep component, trigger this event, which will do this thing and print the bone, like it should. There we go. Okay, so now, instead of having all those ugly effects and junk going on, we can just do an equals foot underscore L. Actually, not even a branch. Let's do a select. So let's just do select. Now it gives us 2 objects. We'll plug that into our gameplay effect class. It gives us 2 effect classes. So if true, it's going to be footstep L. If false, it's going to be footstep R. That'll do that. And that is done. So that's how easy it is to set up footsteps. I mean, it's like really pretty easy. And then if we go back to our footstep content here, that's still set to surface or to that. And now it's zap, 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 zap every time. If we land, so it's not going to do it on jump, which if you really wanted to have footsteps trigger on jump specifically, like when you jump up or maybe a sound or something like that, you could do that by triggering a separate gameplay cue, similar to how I did with the notifies. Or you could do it on your jump ability. You could add gameplay effect to whichever feet you see take off. So in this case, it's the left foot, I believe. Yeah, it's always the left foot is your takeoff foot. And yeah, aside from that, that's how you get that working. So The upside is now it's also going to work in all directions without me having to place notifies, which is like really advantageous because that's a nightmare. And then as you can see, even though the VFX got added, which is probably about 20 megabytes or something. Let's see the disk size first. Oh, it's not even showing me the disk size. That's great. So yeah, the memory size is that. And then if we were to go to that specific file, we'd be able to see that it is in fact loading in 32.1 megabytes of memory when it loads this effect. And largely some of that is just dumb stuff like this smoke effect. And this smoke effect is a 4K texture that's 20 megabytes, and that is super unnecessary. So I'm going to go through and show you how to optimize these like really simply, and they'll be, 1 to 5 megabytes for a whole effect, which is much, much better. It's not going to cause any hitching in a packaged product, and you will not notice any sort of textural problems, so don't worry about that. All right. Well, I hope this video kind of showcases this a bit, and it's a really, really powerful tool. Works great. The effects handlers are going to only get better from here. They're kind of just in their infancy right now. There is some functions being added for things like, velocity-based speeds. I'll go over meta sounds in the next quick video because as you can see, they're already set up and they're already in here. So there's meta sounds for everything, and they just come from a parent sound, and I'll show you how that works and how that triggers and everything like that. So see you on the next video, and like and subscribe. Hope this helps some people.